Nowadays, many of you might know that I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any God. I don't believe in any afterlife. I don't believe in any of that. But I wasn't always. I actually grew up in a fairly religious household. Not like hyper religious, not like you need to go to church every single Sunday or we're going to beat you with a yardstick. Not like that. But before I ever had the ability to choose to go to church, I was dragged to church. And I grew up Mormon. Now, when a lot of people hear that, they might think, oh my God, Mormons are wild. I wanted to let you know that whatever your religion is, I think you're crazy too. But the point is that Mormons have a lot of stigmas around them, and most of them just don't hold true anymore, like the multiple wives thing. I did find out, however, that even though I didn't grow up with this, a lot of the more dedicated Mormons have something that can only be described as magical underwear. And no, I'm not kidding. You can bring your underwear to the bishop and he will bless it so it can keep you safe. God, I could have really used that the 3 times I got molested. No, sir, Mr. Grown Adult, you cannot touch my 7-year-old parts, for I have underwear blessed by the hand of God. Comedy is how I cope with the trauma. So anyway, a lot of people also like to compare being Mormon to Jehovah's Witnesses because we have I'm still in the habit, but Mormons have the missionaries and Jehovah's Witnesses have the parasites who don't stop knocking on your door. But if you've ever been dealing with Jehovah's Witnesses, I want you to know that there is a way to get rid of them, and it is perfectly legal. So, Jehovah's Witnesses will come to your door and they'll knock on your door. And my father taught me this trick. My dad told me a story back in the 80s, how he let a Jehovah's Witness into his house one time. The Jehovah's Witness came into the house, they sat down, they talked to him, they left. And then for the next week, they would not stop knocking on his door. So, one day, they came to the door and my father told his roommate, don't answer it yet. And he stripped down naked, and he answered the door, and he goes, hey, can I help you guys? They went, ah! And they never went back to that apartment. And I can guarantee you, nowadays, almost 50 years later, that apartment still probably does not have Jehovah's Witnesses going to it. A similar thing happened to me. I was living with my best friend from high school. And the thing you got to realize about me and my best friend is that even though personality-wise, we are pretty similar, looks-wise, we're not. I'm short, fat, white, and have a tiny pecker. He is tall, black, skinny, and has a massive tripod dong. So, Jehovah's Witnesses come to our house. We don't let them in, but they keep coming back. So I told my friend the story, and he goes, dude, that's perfect. And so we both strip naked. We put our arms around each other. We open the door and we just start helicoptering. So I've got my massive balls and tiny pecker, and he's got a windmill winging around. And the Jehovah's Witnesses went, ah! And they never came back. But this isn't a story about my religious trauma. This is about how I became an atheist. So by the time I became 18, I had finally decided that I basically had enough. I had enough with all the small shit that never made sense. All the things that don't logically hold up. Because I have always been the type of person who just wants things to make sense. I've always hated when your parents tell you to do something and I'm like, why? And they go, because I said so. That's not a fucking answer. What do you mean? So I go off on this journey and I look at all of it, right? I look at Hebrew, the Hindus' religions. I look at Muslims. I look at Buddhism. I look at all of this stuff. And I finally decide that I just don't adhere to any religion. I don't adhere to any of it. I think that it's all ridiculous. And nowadays, I feel like as long as your beliefs aren't hurting somebody, I don't really care what you believe in. Do I think that you're a little bit illogical? Sure, but if your faith makes you a better person and you don't judge other people and you actually are kind, then what the fuck do I care what you believe in? That's not how I was at 18. At 18, I was a fucking cringe. I'm smarter than you. Fucking, prove to me God exists. And now, as I grow older, I get a lot of people that come up to me and go, prove God doesn't exist. When I eventually had a coworker out in California, I told the story last week about how I worked in retail, and I had a coworker out there, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When I'm at my job, I don't want to be friends with you people. I just want to do my job and I want to go home. So I'm at my job. And we had this thing called the cardboard crusher. And so I'm cutting boxes, throwing them in the crusher, cutting boxes, throw them in the crusher, cutting boxes, throw them in the crusher. And one of my coworkers, he's also cutting boxes, throw them in the crusher, cutting boxes, throw them in the crusher. And he goes, so, somebody told me you were an atheist. I was like, yeah, I am. And he goes, well, you know, God exists. I was like, well, no, I don't. And he goes, so what do you believe? I was like, man, can we not do this? Can we just do our job? And he's like, no. You got to be prepared to defend your beliefs, for fuck's sake. He's like, where did the world come from? I was like, well, the Big Bang. And he was like, that's just a theory. I said, theories in the scientific world are basically proven hypothesis. They're not, does this work this way? They are, this is how this thing works. And he was like, well, how did the Big Bang happen? And I was like, well, we really don't know that much about it. We do know that what probably happened was a compression of energy. And then from that compression of energy over millions and millions of years, it basically exploded and continued to expand into the universe we have now. And he was like, something can't come from nothing. And I was like, all right, smart ass, where did God come from? Well, that's beyond our comprehension. I mean, we really can't. I was like, you fucking cop out. As life went on, I continued to decide that I just wasn't going to engage with this anymore. This all comes to 2 weeks ago. I'm sitting out at a coffee shop here in town. I needed to get out of the house. As a content creator, I see these four walls every fucking day, all day. I needed to get out of the house. I went to a coffee shop. And there is a woman with a side bag, and she's got a whole bunch of atheist stickers all over it. And so I was like, hey, I like your stickers. And she goes, oh, you're an atheist too? And I was like, yeah. And I happen to have my copy of one of Stephen Hawking's books on me at the time. So I showed it to her and we were talking back and forth and, you know, reading and everything. And this dude comes up and he goes, you atheists. You say you are, but you really believe in God. I was like, what? And he goes, well, I see the way you two are looking at each other, which was really weird because, like, I didn't have, like, a romantic attraction to this girl. I mean, she was pretty, but, like, I wasn't, like, trying to fuck her or anything. I was just trying to talk to somebody. And he was like, you two are straight. Bold assumption, first off. And she was like, actually, I'm a lesbian. And she shows the lesbian flag on her saddlebag. And I was like, yeah, and I'm non-binary and bisexual. And he goes, no, you two are trying to kiss. Therefore, you're straight. And only gay people are atheists.